we as kids and as adults saw this gem hidden in the corner underneath this massive water tower, and only the people of media really knew where it was.
You see, it's just a small building, has its own distinct smell, distinct lighting, distinct feel. When you see a sneaker, hear a sneaker squeak on the floor, that's a big moment.
When I walk into the gym, I smell tradition. I hear the echoes of tradition.
For more than 60 years, the Media Boys Club, now known as the Media Youth Center, has provided a myriad of activities for the young people of Media and surrounding communities. This is the story of the Media Youth Center and the many volunteers and kids that made it what it is. The boys of Media had a lot of freedom in 1943. Their uncles and brothers and fathers were in the war far away. Their mothers were working doubly hard to provide for their families and the troops at the front. And so there was ample opportunity for boys to do the kind of things boys do when they are unsupervised.
There was a construction project of replacing the rails on State Street for the trolley, and there was a lot of kerosene lamps. We picked them up and we hung them all over everything you could think of in Media.
Though it was just a mischief night prank, Malcolm Lawhead knew the danger of a boy's misdirected energy. So the police chief laid down the law.
All of us, as we went in, were scared. We didn't know who was called in or what, but we were scared to death. He looked at it and said, "I think you kids need something to do to keep you busy." And he said, "I think we ought to start some sort of club or do something."
It wasn't much, but it was a start, the beginning of the Media Youth Center. By the following spring, the Boys Club needed a place to meet. This was provided by the Media Republican Club. The boys now had a place they could go in their free time to keep them busy and supervised. By 1945, the war had ended and the Boys Club was bigger than ever. But they had lost their clubhouse and were back to where they started, in search of a home. In February 1947, a meeting was held to organize a real boys club. By the spring, the club was a full-fledged organization with J. Paul Skelly as its first president and David Kirk as the first executive director. Within a year, the club was accepted into the Greater Boys Clubs of America. It also found a new temporary home on the third floor of the Porter Building that is still standing on the southeast corner of State and Orange Streets. But soon the club moved again to the basement of the American Legion building at the southeast corner of Baltimore Pike and Veterans Square.
In the meantime, we are all searching around to see what we could do to raise money and get a permanent home, even to the point we were out catching rabbits and turning them over for a couple bucks to people. And then a guy named Sam Rhodes came along and talked to the borough. The borough had a lot where the building now exists on Youth Way, and was able to reach an agreement with the Borough of Media to build a building on that lot.
Construction on the building began in the summer of 1953. Labor was provided by the Williamson Trade School and lasted a little over a year. In American history, the year 1954 is remembered for many things. The Philadelphia Athletics left for Kansas City. Marlon Brando and Grace Kelly kept theater seats filled. Willie Mays led the New York Giants to a World Series win with The Catch. And the TV comedy Father Knows Best debuted on television. But for the small town of Media, something bigger was happening. On October 9, 1954, a building was officially dedicated as the Media Youth Center that we know today. From that day forward, the organization would dedicate itself to the needs of young people in the community. Over the years, the Youth Center has provided activities in keeping with the times. Shortly after the opening of the center, the hula hoop craze struck the nation.
I was the Boys Club hula hoop champ, no doubt about it. Picture in the paper and the whole thing.
I don't think many people know that the rear of the building, which now houses the Ethel Mason Child Care Center, was a model railway at one time, a boxing ring at one time, woodworking at one time. It had all kinds of things.
During the turbulent 60s, the center was an anchor for the kids of the community. Activities such as ping pong, slot car tracks, and all-girl drum and bugle corps gave kids fun things to do and a sense of purpose. As the Flyers gained popularity in the 1970s, the youth center added street hockey.
Now that's something that you don't typically get in a lot of towns. There ain't no ice out here in Media, but we played street hockey and we played it well. So I learned how to lift the puck, I learned how to be a goalie.
Then, as karate and martial arts became the rage, the youth center offered programs for the kids. Boxing was another major component of the program. From the inception of the Boys Club until the 80s, boxing kept the boys busy and kept the town involved, culminating in an annual boxing show. From the inception of the Media Youth Center, basketball served as the centerpiece activity. Through the years, the Youth Center offered basketball for all ages, sizes, and genders. Girls played media hoops from the 1950s until the present.
Coaching in the girls' side of the Media Youth Club, which of course was the boys' club at one point, was a fantastic experience. I grew up knowing about the youth center, and when the chance to coach in the youth center came, it was a joy. The gentlemen were fine to work with. The girls were great to teach.
My mom was the coach when I was the first grade for a bunch of girls, and as I moved up, I had the opportunity to try out for the boys' team. And the coaches, anyone who worked at the boys' club were nice enough, liberal enough to allow me to try out. I was probably in the 4th grade and was, from what I remember, the first and only girl at the time to play on the boys' team.
While the Media Youth Center has always been about basketball for everyone, once in a while, one of basketball's elite made an appearance.
I was at the youth center on a Saturday morning, and Chris Derrick said, "Come on to the gym, I want to show you something, Goldfarb." And I went out there. A little 6th grade game was going, or 5th grade going on, and there was Paul Arizin, one of the greatest players to ever come out of Philadelphia, voted top 50 players in the first 50 years of the NBA, and there he was watching his grandchildren at the Media Youth Center.
At the top of the youth basketball pyramid is the Boys A-League. For more than 50 years, the league has represented the best competition in the media area. Kids and coaches alike approach the games with passion.
Coaching in the A-League is like a fraternal order. You aspire to get there, and very few get there. And when you finally do get there, you feel like you are now a member of a Royal Society. And there's a close bond, and everybody is very, very passionate. And I'm proud to be a part of that group.
I didn't know much about basketball coaching. George indicated also I had to know to put a zone defense on. That was all that was needed. But as I coached and got fun, I started stealing from the other coaches. An offense from this one, a defense from that one.
In fact, the intensity of the competition even extends to the officials.
You have teams that are ahead by 20, and the other team has come back to win, on the last second shot, and you have games that are just seesaw the whole game, back and forth, wind up going into 2-3 overtimes. That rubs off on, it makes you as an official want to give as much as the kids are giving.
I'm a big varsity official and I can handle this and that. But when you do an A-game playoff game at the Media Youth Center, you better come prepared to do the best job you can, because they can get up and down the court, and they like to play. They play hard.
Media's finest young players tested their mettle against other area clubs. For over 40 years, the Media Youth Center hosted a youth basketball tournament.
We had, the Biddy League, which was 12 to 7. And the main thing was, towards the end, was the tournament. That had to be the most competitive time because, you played against Chester, Ridley, Aston, Brookhaven, Philly. And that's when we really made our mark, because a lot of teams came up, they knew they had to play and come ready, to play, try to win.
The early 70s brought the arrival of Louis Jumbo Johnson as the director of the Media Youth Center.
He became the director, executive director, in '72. And that was right after, the Civil Rights era, and being probably the first African-American to, run the Boys Club. I think he faced that challenge in the beginning.
Icon. I mean, for me, Jumbo was the kind of beginning and end of making sure that you did what you're supposed to. You saw him in the streets, he just commanded that respect.
A lot of young guys like myself growing up in media and needing that additional role model. Louis Johnson, like you said, we call Jumbo, he was that guy.
Known to all, Jumbo remained an active contributor to the Youth Center through the 90s. In good times or tough times, Jumbo remained a constant force at the center for over 2 decades.
I just reflect back to, gotta say, it's gotta be tournament time with the crowds and the parking outside and the people inside, and the smell of Sunday dinner being cooked by Jumbo Johnson, concession stand. He fed everybody that came there. That spent the whole day cooking back there.
He was a guy that had everything. He served the people. He knew a little bit about basketball. Everyone respected him. He was firm, but he was easy.
Like every organization, the Media Youth Center experienced ebbs and flows in its 60-plus years. And by the late 80s, the building was beginning to show its age.
I went up there one Saturday and I took a look at the building, and it was in sad shape. There were graffiti on the walls. There was bars on the window. It was neglected. They had no money. They needed finances. And so I made myself a pledge that I would get that building back into some sort of shape where it would be the community would be proud of it.
The Media Youth Center received a complete facelift. Included in the makeover was the addition of Ethel Mason Child Development Center in the rear of the building, which is still housed there today.
We're kind of like America itself when you come right down to it. We have a little bit of everybody at the center. We have people from all walks of life, every socioeconomic level, every culture, every background.
In the fall of 1990, Chris Derrick came on board as the full-time executive director.
Mr. Derrick's just been everything. When I think of the Youth Center, I think of Mr. Derrick.
I think every kid feels that special connection with Mr. Derrick that I don't think they get in every youth basketball center, so it's a special place.
His first order of business? To take organized basketball at the center to a whole new level.
He did a lot of things. He increased the basketball population from approximately 500 kids to over 1,000. But he changed the culture. It became a place where parents wanted to bring their kids.
I'll say this for Chris. When I started coaching, the girls' sport was relegated to Media Friends School. And Chris was the first one that I know gave us time in the large gym here. So I would say Chris broke ground for the girls.
Mr. Derrick's influence on the Youth Center was really just as a leader. He had a very strong presence. He cared about each and every one of the players that were here, and he helped to develop all of us.
The already popular basketball program exploded through the 90s as the Media Hoops logo was seen on shirts throughout media and the surrounding communities.
My dad's biggest contribution to the Media Youth Center is the slogan that everyone knows it by. If you go out there and say the Media Youth Center, everyone goes Media Hoops. That's his thing. That's what he put that on the T-shirt when he got here, and it's everywhere.
Mr. Derrick's just a great all-around person who shares just to help you to become a better basketball player. And he will never freak out on you. He will never spaz like other coaches would. He'll just tell you from right from wrong what to do.
I think my dad had a knack for picking out the good players. And not necessarily the kids that were the good players playing in the A-League, but the kids that maybe had the potential.
So Derrick never gave up on kids. If a kid wasn't as good as everyone else, he would try to help them out to get their game up to the level of the other kids.
I would describe Mr. Derrick as a no-nonsense kind of person, but very genuine. He honestly cares about the kids that come through the boys' club.
From the beginning, the Media Boys Club struggled to raise funds. In the early days, a horse show at the Rose Tree Hunt Club and a marine band concert served as major money-making projects. As early as the beginning years in the 1950s, it became quickly evident that fundraising was a necessity to keep the building and the programs alive.
Well, in the beginning of 1958, in like January or February, Bill and Ted Hadley and a few of the people from the men's club were talking about having a fundraising. And they got Mr. Walsh involved, who was the owner of the Ford, and he came up with the idea we would give away a Thunderbird. And from that moment on until the following October, which was the fourth Tuesday, we've had a Thunderbird dinner every year. It's been 50 years. We started at Rose Tree at the restaurant there, and when it got a little too big, we decided to go to the townhouse. And they have been very accommodating to us, and we have made quite a lot of money through the years.
From the start, Bill and Lorraine Gross have been a driving force in the Thunderbird dinner.
We ran that for many years until my wife Lorraine really got involved. She was at every meeting we ever had because she had to serve refreshments to start with. And then after that, she really became involved. And then she really took it over, and it's her thing today.
Naturally, I got involved too because he's the brain and I do the work. That's how it goes.
While the Thunderbird dinner has been a staple fundraiser for over 50 years, the Youth Center has always benefited from the hard work and generosity of its many volunteers. For years, the Town Talk newspaper sponsored a flea market. Now, each year, Media's young people raise over $10,000 at the annual shoot-a-thon. Also, the Iron Hill Brewery has made the Youth Center the beneficiary of its annual May Brewfest.
You know, most people, they think that someone gives us this pile of money or their registration fees for the kids pays for everything, but really we have to raise almost half our budget through other means. And everyone is, working hard, on the board to whether it's the shoot-a-thon, whether it's the picture taking, whether it's the flea market where we ran the concession stand. And I knew there was something that I could do, so I raised my hand and I said, I think I can put on a concert each year. There's a bit of risk in here. It's not like selling candy outside the Acme. And it's been very successful. It also brings the community together.
In addition to raising needed funds for the Youth Center, an annual concert event has brought world-class musicians like Dave Mason, Richie Havens, and Southside Johnny to Media. While money is still a necessity and the building stands as a testament to much hard work, people remain the most important and vibrant part of the organization.
I think we need to understand that we're all responsible a little bit for the raising of the children. The Youth Center is a place that I think, not just me. I mean, look, the place has been there for 60 years. Countless people, countless volunteers, countless employees, all who put their heart and soul into trying to do what was best for the kids.
But it never got bigger than the neighborhood. We were always willing to accommodate anybody who came in. It was a special place to come. When you came in there, you knew everybody. From the referees, to the director, to the parents, to the guy running the snack bar. We knew everybody. And that's what made it so special.
And always somebody said, I know this guy, maybe he will help us, So it's not hiring somebody, getting people to volunteer and ask their friend to volunteer. And
I think the most important thing about the place is the people that we have in the organization and the populace that we have playing, meaning the kids. For me, it's the kids.
You don't realize how involved certain people have been in raising money, other people in committing time, other people in doing both, and all that, coaching, directing, managing, putting in time that they don't have to put in.
I think that the youth center is different than what other communities have. It's a jewel in the community, and the volunteers have done an excellent job over the years.
For over 50 years, the building has stood on the remote alley called Youth Way. Through 11 presidents, countless trends, styles, and historic events, the building endures with a single purpose: to serve the community in the best way possible. In a world of Facebook, iPods, and iPhones, a place like the Media Youth Center may seem like a 20th century relic. But as anyone with a child can tell you, what's at the heart of the center and the special things it provides are needed now more than ever. Today, the Media Youth Center stands as a vision for the future. A newly added second floor, made possible through the generosity of the Strine family, starts a new chapter in the legacy of the Media Youth Center.
Charlie McCaffery, who became president of the Riddle Hospital, George Lewis, who was a famous tree surgeon in the area, handled all the DuPont estates, Malcolm Lawhead, the chief of police, Walter Strine, John Tipping, borough secretary, and a number of individuals who were just fantastic. Bill Gross came along later and was very instrumental in achieving things, because I watched he and others how hard they worked to achieve things, which gave me a challenge to improve myself. I credit the Boys Club with my success in the business career.
We never thought we were bigger than just the average guy, because that's what we were, a bunch of average guys that just got together and were able to continue what people like the Grosses started.
When our son, who's 58, started, like 50 years, a long time ago, and my nephew, I always felt it was a good place for them to be. It taught them leadership. It taught them to get along with everybody.
I don't know how certain kids would have made it through were it not for the Media Youth Center. And to me, there can be no more comforting place than to have somewhere like that in your community where a kid can go and always count on having something productive to do.
I think it just provides such an outstanding place to grow up in and play basketball in that when you look back on it, all you have is fond memories.
The greatest effect on the children that come through here would be they all get an opportunity to play. And they get a chance to play at their own level. They get a chance to succeed.
If you straighten out one kid or two kids, you're not going to get them all. I agree to that. But if you can take the one or two that walk the wrong way and turn around their pathway and send them in the right direction, I think that's more than fit the bill.
One generation passes it on to the next generation, has passed it on to the next generation, and from what I can see and from what I can understand, the next generation will be passing it on to the following.
I think that when you start having kids that are of age to play here, you need to continue on the tradition of coaching a team.
The Media Youth Center is a triumph of community spirit. It's a triumph of community spirit because basically the people had a dream. They found a way to get it built. They found a way all these years. Just when you think the ball's going to drop, somebody picks it up. It's almost like that team that always finds a way to win the game.